Good morning, my name's Mike. The reason I'm posting this video is I've got a P38 Range Rover and the fuel injection pump leaked, and I couldn't find any information on YouTube. So I've stripped the engine down and I'm going to post this on tuning the fuel injector pump. Now I'm going to bring you around. That is the crank with the gear on there, which drives up through here, set on pins and markers on the chain, which dictates top dead center, or your timing position for your pump, which then drives your main crank. As you can see, we've got the crank locking tool, so we know that our crank is in top dead center. In the back of the engine down there is the pin, I'll take you around in a minute, to lock into top dead center. Once you have everything established into top dead center, you then set this chain here with the marker on the cog, with the marker there. There's a little 0 and a 6 for the 6-cylinder, which then gives the position of the keyway for the pump. And once the pump's established, the back chain, this one here, the back chain can then be connected here. So it's driven from here up through here, here, and up to here. Okay, that's as far as I've got with it. I don't really think you want to see me putting all the parts on. I'm ready to put the gaskets on. All the surfaces have been nicely cleaned and prepared. I'll post some pictures. I'll post some pictures of the stripping down and the sequence of work. But once I get ready to time the pump up, I'll post how it's done. Thank you. Welcome. Today's problem we've got is with this Range Rover still. I'm going to have to take the head off in order to reset the timing. Right, so we'll run through it in a minute. I've got the inlet manifold off, as you can see. And I've taken the head off, the crank cover off. There's the crank. It's got to come off with the exhaust, and then we can get to the front section here where all the timing chains are. So in order to do this, we have to take off all of those, which are the glow plugs. This is already disconnected. Take off this rail here, this bit here, this pipe, this is your water pipe, and the 3 bolts holding the turbocharger on. And then we'll use our sling to lift the head off, and we'll have a look, see what's going on with the timing. Hello. As you can see, we've got the head on the floor, and if I take you around to the head, there's the head there. Alright, and if we look down in piston number 1, it's nowhere near top dead center. So in order to do that, what we're going to do now, turn it around on the crank, on the crank, and find top dead center. Okay, I've taken off the head gasket and all this. Very good light to see it in. But all they are, all this gunk, carbon deposits, all has to be cleaned off. We'll reset it to top dead center, and that will have our bottom shaft down here where we need it. Hi, alright, we've got the head off. I'm just going to show you the little Dahlia gauge indicator there, how to figure out what size head gasket you need. Now, I've already zeroed this. If you see, we're taking a reading across the head. Okay. And all we do is slide it onto the piston, bring the piston up, and see what reading we've got. Now, it's very difficult to hold this camera, hold that, and turn an engine. I've only got one pair of hands, so I'll bring it up and show you the difference. Around the side here, there's the pin. Locked in the hole into the flywheel. Okay, and if we bring it up, cable out of the way, that's the position at top dead center on number 1 piston. Okay, right, next episode, clean up the other piece and put it back on the engine. Okay, so I've brought the piston up. As you can see, it's reading 72. So that would indicate that it needs a head gasket with 3 dots in it, which we've already purchased. So now we've checked that the height, that's the height of the piston. We can now turn it around and put it into top dead center, putting the pin down in the back of the engine there. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, that's got it. Right, head's all nice and cleaned up. Piston is on top dead center. We've got our pin in. And on the flywheel, there you go. I've put 3 pinpoints on that marker to show top dead center, so that we can get top dead center quite easily again. Now, turn you around. There's the other pin. That's the crank. That's all nicely cleaned up. Okay, so we're already there. So the next job is to take off all the pulleys and the auxiliaries. They're there and there. Now, one point I will make before we go any further, using the pin to push this plunger down to release the tension on the top chain, the pin has an eye on it, so I've replaced it with a 3.5mm drill bit to keep that piston there, this piston here, compressed. If you let that piston go, if you pull this plate off forward and that pulls that pin out, that piston will fly out, and then you've got a hell of a job finding all the rest of it. So just make sure that if you do this, you've got access for this plate to move, keeping that pin in. Okay, so I'm going to pull the auxiliaries off and the pulley down there, and then we should have access to the front cover, and then we can tighten the rest of the chains up. Now we've got all the auxiliaries off. Just have a look now. Air conditioning pump's off. What pump's out? Oil. No, that's the power steering pump there. Yeah, power steering pump and the alternator. We've taken the 4 bolts out of the sump, and we've got all these to do. I've taken the water pump out, take off all these. Now I've still got the tool holding that gear in there, but I think what I'll do is I'm going to take the fuel injection pump off, because we can't guarantee that's in timing anyway, and we've got to reset it. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the fuel pump off, take the front cover off, and then we can re-time it up. We're off. I'll bring you around and have a look. You see what we're doing. Right, there's the front cover off. Now, put a lever in there, push this chain back, which will push this piston back up, and we can put our pin in there. This chain can come off, and then we can time this one up with that one. There's the position of our top dead center, just there on our keyway, and on there, I'll take them out in a minute and show you. There's some markers that we've got to mark up, and then the timing how the pump can be put in. Okay, got the chains off. I'll bring you down now just to have a closer look at them. Now, see if we can get it in there. There we are. There's the dot on the cog and the marker on the chain. There's the number 6 for the 6 cylinders, and there's the marker on the chain. And when we put it back on, that will sit on that keyway there, which is that keyway there, which will then determine the position of that keyway. Let it come in. That keyway, which your fuel injection pump sits in, and then the back chain connects at the top. Chains are on now. We've got them back on. Just see if we can bring you down. I don't know if this will zoom in for me to do this. Probably not, but there you go. Yeah, there you go. The top chain onto the fuel injector pump. 6 is on the little 0. But bring it down into the engine. There it is. You can see the little dot on the spark lines up with the chain. So now that means that the fuel injection pump there is now in its correct position to fire at top dead center, which is what we're looking for. So that's timed up, that's timed up, that's in the correct position, that's in the correct position. We can now look at putting the head back on and all the auxiliaries and building it back up. The position of this chain here is dictated by the position on the crank, using the special tool that sits in and holds the crank on. So that will be on top dead center, so we just set the top chain to wherever the crank is at top dead center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we're done. Right, we've got our front cover back on, everything's ready to go. Before we put the gasket back on, make sure that you've got 3 dots on the gasket, and make sure it's the right gasket going on there. 74mm on the head indicates that that's the right gasket, so check that before you even open it. Okay, as you can see, we've got our head back on our hoist, and we're just about to start putting it back in. Bring it over to the cart. Okay, gasket's on, ready to receive everything. So we'll pop that on and have another little look. Alright, as you can see, we've got the cam back on. We've got our tool in, keep it in top dead center. The chain guide, the one that snapped down the bottom that's caused all this problem, has been put back in. It's only hand tight. And before I can set this cog, I have to set the feeler gauges under there, and I think it's 4.2 mil. It's got a 3/16 It's got to be under there because it's over 20,000 kilometres on the engine. Alright, we're back again. Now then, as you can see, alright, the head's on. The upper pulley is tightened on. The guide chains are on. Everything's been released. The pulley wheel's on. I've turned the crank twice through and doesn't seem to be any problem at the moment. Now, in order to time the pump up, you bring the crank round until these cam lobes are pointing up. Okay? And then I've already inserted part of it. You put your dial gauge indicator on the end of there. I'll just do that now and I'll show you what happens next. At 90 degrees before top dead center, and as I turn the crank, okay, right, you'll see it suddenly, there it goes. Lowest point. Open it now. There. Okay. Right. That's its lowest point. And we'll set the dial to 0. Okay, now we carry on cranking round till we reach top dead centre. Which is there. Okay, now that pump has to come all the way up to 90. Right, how are we doing? Hans has come along to have a look and give his 2 pennies worth.
Yep.
Top man.
Read the instructions.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Read that.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to spin you around, and as you can see, we've got the cam top dead center. We have the crank on top dead center, and at top dead center, the pump is adjusted, as you can see, and you get a better view of it over the top. Let's see if I can zoom in. There you go.
Perfect readout.
90 mil of lift at top dead center.
Verified.
Verified, we're on a winner. There we go.